Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ali. I'm a final year medical student at Cambridge University, and it's absolutely lovely to see you. Today we're going to be talking about how to answer the common interview question of what is your biggest weakness? And I know this is a question that fills a lot of people with dread because there's a bit of uncertainty about whether you talk about a weakness and then turn it into a strength, or whether you're actually honest about your weaknesses, or whether you say you're a perfectionist. So hopefully by the end of this video you'll have a better idea about how to answer that question. To that end, we'll be hearing from 6 different medical students who are offering their own perspective on how to answer the question. And then we'll have a segment of myself and my friend Kenny actually answering the question as if we would in an actual interview, so you have an idea of what an answer might look like. But the biggest thing to say is, kind of like with all of these videos and any kind of book that you read about interview preparation, is that there really isn't a right or wrong answer. The right answer just depends on what you think your biggest weakness is. You can pretty much say anything, and I think a good formula to follow is that pick something that actually is a weakness for you, but then talk about how you're improving on it. And I think that's probably the formula that most people follow when answering this question. And then you just kind of customize it, personalize it, make it your own answer, and hopefully deliver it in a nice way with like smiling and, you know, just kind of try and be engaging with the answer, and you'll be absolutely fine. This question isn't really something to worry about, but it is something you want to be thinking about in advance of the interview so that you're not completely thrown by it if it comes your way. Now we're going to hear from 6 medical students who are offering their own different perspectives about how to answer this question, and then we'll be hearing from myself and Kenny doing a mock interview answer for that question. So 6 medical students coming up giving you tips on how to answer the question, and I'll see you in just a moment.
So it's a bit of a mean question. Don't go too hard on yourself. Don't kind of say, oh, you know, I'm lazy, I'm terrible with my time. But similarly, don't say you're a perfectionist, because medicine's not really the career for you if you are, and that's a bit cliched. You know, one of the things I've heard people say is that they take on too much, they find it hard to say no to opportunities. Prioritising when they've got lots of things on their plate are all things that they could work on. So anything that's not too sort of self-damning. But another good way to follow it up is to say how you're working on it. So I'm not good with my time management. However, I've taken steps to adjust this, and I'm now getting better at prioritising things that need to be done immediately versus things that could possibly wait. Just something basic like that.
So the what's your biggest weakness question, I think a lot of people see it as like a trick question, and they feel like they have to say, you know, my biggest weakness is that I'm such a perfectionist or something like that, basically turning a strength into a weakness. I didn't do that. I was very honest about my biggest weakness, which for me is anxiety. I struggle with anxiety, and that's something that I'm aware could impact my practice in future. But instead of pretending that I had a strength, what I did is actually talk about how I'm going to improve my weakness. So I said, I have anxiety, but I speak to my GP about it regularly. I have counselling. It's something that I tell people when I enter a stressful situation, and basically the tips and tricks that I was doing myself to improve my weakness. So don't feel like you have to sort of sell a strength as a weakness. Be open and honest about things that you really do consider weaknesses, but talk about how you're going to make those better and how you're going to change within yourself to make sure that they don't impact your clinical practice.
I think it's actually worth thinking again, you know, make it about you and what is your biggest weakness? What do you struggle with? Because everyone does struggle with some things. So for me, I know that my confidence was not very good. It still is something I struggle with now. And so that was really true. I could say that actually I know that as a doctor, one of the things I'm going to have to do is be confident in myself and my abilities to a point. And I know that I have to learn where that point is so that I'm not too confident and I'm not underconfident, because actually both of those are bad for patient safety. So if you can link it to something that is true and realistic for you, but also something that you're showing you're learning from it. You're saying that I know that this is something that needs work, and this is how I'm going to change it.
So people get really worried about this question because they think, oh crap, how do I talk about my weaknesses without sounding too weak? How do I sound like I'm not just bigging myself up by saying I'm a perfectionist or something else cliche like that? Again, I think it's good to be honest, but not too honest. So for example, I wouldn't have said that I have poor timekeeping, which is true, very true. Because that's not a good quality in a doctor, unless I could really justify how I've worked on it really well and improved a lot.
Knowing your weakness is such an important part of medicine, and all through your career you'll be encouraged to self-reflect every day through portfolios, through revalidation. So this is a really crucial question, not just for interviews but just for life. So actually just think honestly about it, think where your weakness lies and how you would, you know, go about to improve that. So for me in particular, I was always very much a perfectionist, very kind of like a lot of medics. I always kind of am quite thorough with things, almost to the point where it impairs the job. So I think just being aware of that and saying you'll be aware of that and having strategies to deal with it is...
Okay, so that was 6 medical students giving tips on how to answer the question, what is your greatest weakness? Now we're going to hear from myself and my friend Kenny, who are going to be giving mock interview answers to the camera as if we were in an actual interview. So I obviously knew the question was coming up, but the answer I gave on camera is very similar to the answer I would have given back in the day when doing interviews. And actually I think I got asked that question like 3 times out of the 4 interviews, and I gave pretty much the exact same answer every time. Kenny didn't know the question was coming up, so his answer is completely off the cuff, but I still think it's a pretty good answer, and hopefully you guys might learn something from it and might sort of get an idea of what an answer might look like. But equally, it's important to say, don't try and copy answers. You should never be copying answers from anywhere. The right answer is what's the right answer for you. So this is just to give you an idea of what some people might want to say, but please don't think you have to copy this format. Anyway, all that aside, let's now hear from myself and Kenny giving answers to the question, and I'll see you in a moment.
So I'd say my biggest weakness is probably public speaking. So I've had a stutter since I was about age 4. And that has made it quite difficult for me to do public speaking in the past, and also, you know, everyone's got a fear of public speaking, so maybe I'm just using that as an excuse. But I kind of realised this when being asked to do presentations in English class. You know, even something as simple as a book review would really get my heart rate up, get me sweating, and I kind of thought that if I do want to be a doctor and if I do want to teach, because I quite like the idea of teaching, then public speaking is something I do have to work on. So I have been trying to improve my public speaking skills. When I was in year 12, I decided to become a close-up magician. So I learned a few magic tricks and then volunteered at the local hospice to perform magic for the residents there. And I performed at their Christmas party, which was really, really scary, but it did help me improve my public speaking. And apart from that, I've also started working. I've also started helping GCSE and A-level students with their maths and science. And while it's not really public speaking as such, it has kind of improved my confidence and helped me kind of realize that when I know what I'm talking about, then the confidence kind of comes across. And yeah, it's still a work in progress. You can probably tell from this interview that, you know, I'm still quite nervous when it comes to speaking in front of people, but it is something I'm working on. But yeah, I would say that's probably my biggest weakness at this point.
I think one of my biggest weaknesses can be summarized with the phrase, if you want something done well, do it yourself, because I think I'm a person that likes to do everything, and I like to do everything because sometimes I think that I might not in an arrogant way, but sometimes I think I might be able to get it done maybe quicker than someone, or maybe to the way that I want it, even though there's multiple ways of doing things, and there's multiple ways that things might be able to be done. So I think the fact that I always want to kind of take on a burden or take on almost every role is something that I need to definitely work on, because in a hospital environment, doctors have one role, nurses have another role, healthcare assistants have another role also, but everyone kind of all works together. And I also need to realise that I have my own limitations. Just because I want to do everything doesn't mean I'm good at everything that I do. So I think it's definitely important for me to learn or to take on board that there are some things that I might be better at than other people. There are some things that people can do better than I can do. And that's definitely something that I learned during my time in a committee when I was in school. And essentially what this committee was every other week we had to put on a, not a show, but we had to put on almost like, we essentially had to fill up an hour of kind of the year group's time. And I was allocated chairman of that committee. And when I got given that role, I thought, okay, it's up to me to liaise with people to come in and talk to the year group. It's up to me to liaise with the committee members and find things out. It's up to me to liaise with teachers. And I quickly found out that I can't do all of that by myself, and that the reason I'm in a committee is because there's other people who I might be able to delegate tasks to, or other people who might be able to do things better than I can. So that's definitely a way that I improved what was my weakness, and it's definitely something I think I still need to work on, but it's something I'm not afraid to work on.
Alright, cool. That brings us to the end of the video. We've heard from 6 medical students giving their perspective on how to answer the question, what's your greatest weakness? We've heard from myself and Kenny giving mock answers to the interview question, as if we were actually in an interview. And yeah, I really hope you found that useful. I know this question caused a lot of anxiety, but hopefully by now you've realised that it's not too bad and you've had some ideas about what you can say when you're faced with this question in an interview. And just to reiterate, the biggest thing is that you make your answer personal to you, and there really isn't a right or wrong answer. So yeah, I really hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions at all about the medicine application or about anything else, or if you've got any suggestions for videos that we could be doing on the channel, please leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And yeah, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. More videos coming out very soon about interviews, and I do vlogs as well about life as a medical student. So thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.